Hello and welcome back to Blue Flag Bandits, the series that takes you through F1's backmarker teams from the first Cody's iteration of F1 2010 all the way through to the present day, whenever that may be. And we are deep into Season 2 2011, driving for Team Lotus in the T128. And we're coming off the back of quite a disappointing result as we enter round number 11 at Hungary, the Hungaroring, because we had an absolute golden opportunity in Germany to maybe claim our first points of the season, and we didn't. We made a couple of very fatal flaws during that race. It was mistakes that I made rather than strategy missteps or just straight up issues with the car being slow. We managed to get into Q3 for the first and what I'm suspecting will be the only time in 2011. We ran solidly in the top 10 for most of the race and then overshot the pit entry. Missed the pit stop that we needed to make. Span the car on our way round on absolutely ruined Pirelli rubber. And then made another mistake in backing out of putting on intermediate tyres at exactly the time we needed intermediate. So we ended up finishing 16th, which is still, I think, our third best result of the year, which shows you where we're at kind of performance-wise. And in that vein, there we are, P19. We lost a position to Rubens Barrichello, but we're still ahead of Timo Glock, Liuzzi, Kartikeyan, D'Ambrosio, and Trulli. So the other new team cars, the Virgin Racing cars, the HRT cars, and the other Team Lotus, which is always, at least in our first three seasons, in 10, 11, and 12, going to be our kind of main goal. Beat the other new teams. We comfortably did that last season, driving the Virgin Racing car. This season, it might be a level on points thing, but at least we finish higher in the standings, and that's going to have to be the way it goes. The only other people yet to score points, Barrichello, as we mentioned, Sutil in the Force India, and the other Williams have passed to Maldonado. At the top end of things, though, Fernando Alonso extended his lead to 24 points over Mark Webber, our defending 2010 champion in our universe, and Vettel closed right in with a great result to be a point behind his teammate. Jenson Button's a little further back, with Hamilton and Massa once again a little further back than that. And then it's the battle below for Petrov, Schumacher, Rosberg. Perez, I think you could probably class in that as well, although he's an outside bet for a top 7 finish. Then it's Heidfeld. Buemi had a fantastic result in Germany to catapult him up the order. Kobayashi, Alguersuari, and De Resta, who picked up a point in Germany as well to double his tally. And in the Constructors, Red Bull 17 clear of Ferrari. That's looking like a much closer fight for the Constructors than it was last year. Red Bull are our defending champions, as they were in the real world anyway. McLaren a little further back from that, in their own little bubble, much like third place was last season. That, I think, again, was McLaren. It was a battle for fourth, which was cut away from everybody else. Although Sauber, they're in 6th behind Lotus and Mercedes, doing quite well. Toro Rosso really bolstered by that result for Buemi in Germany, and then Force India with 2 points on their own. We are 10th. We're still ahead of Virgin Racing and HRT, which again is the minimum objective, I guess. And we're level on points with Williams because they are also yet to score. All it's going to take is a 10th place, and we can beat Williams. And I love Williams. They are probably my favourite active team. Inactive teams would be Lola and Minardi, just because Minardi, the ultimate underdogs, and Lola were just woeful. Hence why, if you've ever watched any streams I've ever done of modern Formula 1 games with my team, it's always Lola Minardi. And it will be going forward also the same for our Stroll WRC campaign, the Lola Minardi WRC3, and maybe other series that might be coming in the future. More on that when they arrive, I guess. But all we need is a point to beat Williams, and that would still be quite the achievement for Team Lotus. Let's not forget, Team Lotus in their various guises over their entire history in Formula 1 never scored a point. That was when they were Lotus, Team Lotus, and Caterham, all the way through to their demise in 2014, was it? Whereas Virgin Racing, Manor, Marussia went on to at least score. HRT also didn't score. So Team Lotus and HRT kind of level pegging in terms of woefulness, I guess. But we've come so close so many times this season, or at least we've felt like it. Germany was definitely the absolute golden opportunity this season. We started in the top 10, we catapulted off the line, and we're running as high as 5th place with Boemi holding up Weber in front. Then Weber retired, and we still were in those points all the way through until that fateful kind of final stint. And now we move to the Hungaroring, a circuit that I'm not great at. I don't know what it is with all of the F1 games by Codemasters, and possibly to an extent, as I'm sure I will explore at a later date, older F1 games as well. The Hungaroring just seems to be this weird outlier. It's not the kind of circuit I thrive on, but it's also not the worst circuit that we have. It's tough to overtake, it's narrow, and there are lots of moments where actually you can probably keep a bit more of your foot in, but there are so many corners that are so deceptive, especially in the tail end of the lap, and I can just never get a flow around here, which means that we're going into this probably with very, very low expectations. Our expectations have been low most of this season, but it really would be something, and pie in the sky thinking, yeah, I guess. If after the golden opportunity we had in Germany, and we messed that up, that we come here with no hope and actually come away with something. But as I say, pie in the sky thinking, really, really clutching at straws. At least between the last 2 rounds, I have been given a contract extension at Team Lotus, which obviously we won't be honouring because we won't be continuing through this career mode. On this game, we finish 11, we move to 12, and we move to HRT. But, you know, positive news, I guess, for our fictional driver. Confidence from Tony Fernandez. But as I say, that doesn't really matter. So, let's go to practice. Find our way around the Hungaroring once again, but see how it handled in 2011. And while we do, we'll talk about the 2011 Hungarian Grand Prix. Round 11 of the season brought Formula 1 back to the Hungaroring for the Hungarian Grand Prix. After Team Lotus brought Chandok in for the previous round, Jarno Trulli was reinstated to his seat at Team Lotus, and this was a race full of celebration for a number of reasons. This was Jenson Button's 200th Grand Prix, the 100th Grand Prix for Nico Rosberg and Toro Rosso, and the 100th race for the 2.4 litre V8 engine since it became mandatory in 2006. Practice saw Lewis Hamilton lead the way in both the first and second sessions, while Red Bull found themselves struggling. The team was so frustrated with their performance that they broke curfew to make setup changes to their cars. The changes worked though. Vettel would top the final practice session 0.3 of a second clear of Fernando Alonso. Qualifying started as it often had in 2011, the new teams dropping out in the first part alongside the Toro Rosso of Sebastian Buemi, who knew he had a 5-place penalty to contend with from the incident in Germany. It was, however, Team Lotus who once again led the way of those new teams. It was a similar sort of story in Q2, though Hamilton managed to make it through on the prime tyre, while everyone else, bar Maldonado, who didn't set a time, had to use one of their option tyre sets. The only surprise, if you could call it that, was that both Lotus Renaults dropped out in Q2, while Perez made it into Q3. Despite Hamilton setting the pace through the weekend, it was, who else but Sebastian Vettel who took the pole position ahead of both McLarens, while Massa and Alonso were ahead of Mark Webber. Perez didn't set a Q3 time and started 10th, while Rosberg, Sutil and Schumacher completed the rest of that top 10. The weather on race day had caused chaos for the support racers, but by the time of the Grand Prix, the track was not very wet, but slippery, according to the teams, giving everyone a bit of a tyre strategy headache. Every team and driver, though, eventually decided to start on intermediate tyres. Vettel led away into turn 1, while Hamilton and Button followed in behind. Both Ferraris and Mark Webber struggled off the line, allowing both Mercedes cars to go through to 4th and 5th.
The tyres and brakes are running at optimal temperatures.
The opening laps would see changes of position at the top of the order, Alonso getting back past Schumacher and Rosberg, while Vettel ran wide and allowed Hamilton to take the lead. Wouldn't be long until the track dried out enough for dry tyres. Webber was the first to blink, with Button following just a lap later. The race at this point settled into a rhythm as the track dried out. Hamilton led from Button until there was a brief rain shower late in the race. Hamilton span and forced Di Resta off track. This allowed Button to close in on his teammate, and the pair began to battle, trading places until Hamilton pitted for intermediate tyres. Unfortunately for Hamilton, the track dried out soon after, meaning he had to pit again, while Button, who'd stayed out on the dries, led battle up front. Hamilton would recover to fight for 4th, with Mark Webber, the Australian, getting caught behind lap traffic and allowing Hamilton through. It was, however, Jenson Button who would take the win, the site of his first race win back in 2006 and during his 200th race weekend. Vettel would take second to continue to extend his championship lead, while Alonso would complete the podium. Hamilton would beat Webber to 4th, with Massa in 6th. Once again, a car that had started in 18th took points as Buemi made it to 8th behind Di Resta, with Rosberg and Alguersuari completing the points picture. This was also another record-breaking race in 2011, with 88 pit stops across the race distance. How is our Hungarian Grand Prix qualifying going to go? Well, we had a surprisingly strong quali last year in 2010, but ended up DNFing in the race. While this year we're unlikely to have a stronger qualifying session, just because we lack pace. Let's be realistic. Let's say we're going to aim for our usual spot in P19, but see if the congested track can help us spring a surprise.
We don't think you'll have any trouble getting into the next session, so don't push too hard.
Engineer Andy there with a little bit of encouragement as we head into qualifying for Hungary. Reminded myself between practice and qualifying how we did last season, and we actually got a top 6 start at Hungary in 2010. Obviously we DNF'd in the race and it wasn't particularly great. Practice went actually quite well. We ended up the session P14, and while I think the conditions changed, it's not like the grid was all that mixed up. We were within 2 seconds of the pole sitter, or the top of the session, and that was in P1. So who knows? Maybe this circuit will prove to be much better for us, but let's get out there, run some laps, see what the quickest in Q1 can do for us.
Your times through all sectors are off the pace, particularly in sectors 2 and 3.
Got a fastest lap in Q1 then. A little wide into turn 1, maybe put off a little bit by Jarno Trulli on an out lap. Fortunately our teammate moves immediately out of the way and we can get down into turn number 2, just waiting to get on the power nice and early there. And the same with getting on DRS out of there. Run a little wide, but we can slingshot our way through that, and we're half a second up, nearly 6/10 up in the first sector, and up on the cars ahead. Run a little wide into turn number 5, but managed to swing the car back in. Seem to lose a lot of time in the chicane here. It's so easy to just cut across and invalidate a lap, so we've backed off. 2 bites at the cherry, getting into that left-hander, which compromises us all the way through here. We can at least carry the pace through the next couple of corners, keeping it nice and neat on exit, and we're 3/10 up, but quite a distance off the cars in front. Ride the curve in the penultimate few corners to just try and gain as much time as possible. And then it's getting through this last corner, keeping it nice and tight, just about avoiding that wall as we gun it towards the line. But would it be enough to get us through?
Moved into 19th place with that last lap. Bad luck, you missed out on Q2 by 2 places. We're in 19th place.
And after the high of Germany, we're back down to our traditional 19th spot in qualifying in Hungary. Got balked by Sergio Perez at the start of one lap. He did what I did in 2010 and hit the Armco at the entrance to the pits, and then cut back on the line as he was trying to avoid somebody exiting the pits as I was coming up behind him, and that wiped out my front wing, cost me a lot of time, and then in the dying embers of the session was pushing too hard and span it down on the exit of 3. But even if I'd got that lap in, I don't think I would have even closed on Barrichello. We are joined by Barrichello, Trulli, D'Ambrosio, Cartacane, Liuzzi and Glock. I think it's the first time me and Trulli have started next to each other-ish on the grid, at least 19th, 20th. Still have not been out-qualified by the other new teams, and hopefully we can continue the trend of not being out-raced by them. But let's cross over to that race and hope we can make positions in Budapest. Welcome on into the garage then for the 2011 Hungarian Grand Prix, back in P19, where we've spent 99% of this season, barring that heroic 10th place in Germany and that heroic 11th place in China and the 18th we got in Australia. This has essentially been our starting place every race this year, every other race anyway. But what will Monaco without the walls hold for us? Well, we'll get into that in a moment. Let's take a look at the grid and we can kind of get a flavour for what's going to happen. Fernando Alonso, championship leader, took the pole position ahead of Vettel, and it's Hamilton, Webber, Button, Massa, Rosberg, Schumacher, Heidfeld, Petrov. That top 10, the same for every race bar, I think, China and Germany. Germany because of me, China because of, I want to say, Sergio Perez that time. Other than that, I'm pretty sure every other race this season, that has been your top 10 in various orders. Then it's Kobayashi, Buemi, Alguersuari, Di Resta, Perez there in 15th after losing a front wing and costing me mine during Q1. Then Sutil, Maldonado. Then it's Barrichello who came out in Q1 with us. And then Trulli, D'Ambrosio, Cartacane, Liuzzi and Glock. So we maintain our not being out qualified by our fellow new teams. Jarno Trulli gets the closest he's been to us, I think, all season in 20th place. And now it's just a case of trying to not be outraced by those guys. It's a tough, twisty, tight circuit. Overtaking, not impossible round here in these cars. They are a little smaller than the modern ones, but not easy either. Getting a good start is going to be key, but I don't know, managing this race really, I think, could all hinge on how far forward we can make ourselves go. That's not right English, nor's that. Managing this race is going to be all about how far forward we go early doors, and if we can hold people behind us with these few opportunities to overtake. And if we do that, can we hope for some shenanigans? This feels like a circuit where you'd expect a safety car or a few cars to drop out. So maybe we'll gain a couple of places from that. But honestly, I think P19 is probably about as good as it's going to get. Let's try and maintain. If we can get ahead of Barrichello and stay there and jump it back in front of him in the driver's title, then great. If not, I don't think unless we have a really terrible back end of the season where we finish last every race, I can't see anyone behind us jumping us with a better result this year. So, I mean, even though it is only round 11, we're almost, I think, safe from being outpaced, outmatched, beaten by the other new teams. But I think this is going to be a tough one. The 2011 Hungarian Grand Prix. Let's head to the grid. Championship leader Alonso on pole, Vettel alongside him, Webber a bit further back. There we are, and you can just see there next to us, Jarno Trulli and the other Team Lotus. All about how good a start we can get as the first light, second light, third light, fourth light, and then the fifth. And away we go, and as has been the case most of this season, we get a decent getaway. We're already up alongside and past Rubens Barrichello. Then a threat from Jarno Trulli there. Take off a little bit of front wing as Webber's the one to be really falling down the order here.
Taken some slight damage. Stay out unless it's causing you problems.
Clip the back of Paul di Resta. We dive up the inside of the Scotsman and tip him slightly and then cut him off, and we're P9 behind Mark Webber. And that's the kind of start you want. We really have to check up behind the Red Bull. I think there's a Sauber up there ahead of Jenson Button. Really, he's got one hell of a start. It is Kamui Kobayashi from 11th. Going to lose a little bit of time at the pit stops with that slightly damaged front wing, but it doesn't. It's not doing us favours, but it's not harming us too bad. As Button takes a look at Kobayashi, opens himself up to Mark Webber. Neither making a move there. But we're into the top 10. That wall is the one I've really got to watch out for. That's what cost us our race last year. I thought that was a Williams end, but it's actually Michael Schumacher. We were fighting with him for a lot of the German Grand Prix last time out. Already losing the back of the top 8. To be expected in this car, especially with a little bit of damage, but we'll push on.
DRS is now enabled.
The rest has a look and just about block him off, almost pull a 2010 Michael Schumacher and force him towards the barrier, but we give him enough racing room. Schumacher flies by him. As long as you don't get too wide.
Roger that.
Can sort of defend everywhere here because the track's so narrow. As I decide to try something a bit different. I'm going to try and go prime for our second stint, I think. I mean, we're already just 2 laps away from pitting in because you can see how bad the tyres are already wearing. Because Hungary is get wide and that just allows Schumacher to breeze by. We'll get late on the brakes and try and send it, and we'll block him out. Robust, but no contact as far as I could feel or hear. Oh, that was close. I hate that inside wall with a battering. As di Resta and Schumacher will have DRS. Di Resta tries to go up the inside. He will get there first. I think I might lose 2 spots here. No, Di Resta just sort of sat next to me. And then we will once again send it back at the inside. Too deep though. Lose a position. Alguersuari now the man behind us. Run wide there again. Tyres really falling apart early. We might be out of the points before we get to the pit stops at this point, at this rate, sorry. Alguersuari will have DRS. As will Schumacher, they all will. Just sort of hold them up. The AI don't really go for the big dive bomb moves. If everybody comes in with me, which they're scheduled to. I've obviously got front wing damage as well. Try that strategy call, go prime, and while we'll be slower, In terms of tyre offset, we will be able to stay a bit longer, which might yield us a bit of track position. So this is Monaco without the walls, and track position is kind of key here. Oh, this might be a 3-stopper this early. It's a 35 lap race, so not this again. Oh, well, we cost Alguersuari a bit of front wing and just about hold the position. Whether he's going to change his front wing or not, I don't know, but it's very much like Germany, very nearly just waltzed straight past the entry to the pits. Being held, losing positions. Yeah, we'll fall behind all of them.
Exit now.
Into 21st.
You're free to rejoin the track is clear.
I think Alguersuari changed his front wing.
We've fitted you with the prime tyres. You have 3 stops remaining.
It's a 4-stop race. There's a lot of pit stops here.
We've had a look and we think Alguersuari is due to pit within the next 5 laps.
And they're all kind of tripping over each other as well, though, so that might work out to my benefit. Maybe if I hadn't clipped the front wing on the back of Paul de Rasta early on, I might have been able to stay in front of them. Trulli's in. D'Ambrosio was up in 15th. He's obviously come in as well. And back up to P18. P18 would suggest that either somebody like Barrichello is down there and struggling, or we've lost somebody. Going to a check in a mo. So if we've got any real good spots to jump out and get back in without feeling like we've got a corner coming up immediately, but we'll test it. We are actually closing on these guys a little bit, or at least staying with them. P18 because there has been a retirement. Sebastian Bueni's Toro also has expired, and this one. Even if we end up finishing on our traditional sort of no man's land between the main field and our little battle of 6, we'll still at least gain a position. If not more as this race goes on, who knows? We were 1.6 behind Alguersuari and lost nearly a second and a half, if not more, actually, on the Spaniard. But we're still pulling away from Jerome D'Ambrosio, so a long and lonely race, this one. Heidfeld is down to P17. I could have sworn I saw Petrov in 15 as well. Heidfeld is out, so we're up to P17. Nick Heidfeld's day is over as I get a warning for corner cutting again. I just feel like it's never going to turn in there, so it's just a case of bail out rather than force the car into the corner. And it looks like a large chunk of the field are in, so we're going to hopefully gain a couple of positions here. Maximum attack out the last corner, see what we can pick up.
Barrichello has just turned into the pit lane.
Barrichello, Alguersuari, and maybe Adrian Sutil, I think we got past, but we're up to P14. Schumacher we didn't pass. Some more cars in the pits. Maldonado. Won't make it past Maldonado. He's on prime tyres now. Some fresher rubber, even though they're cold, manages to box us out at 1.
Maldonado's next. Line him up for a pass.
How much time we'd lost on that little clutch of cars. I thought we were close enough to be able to lose the back end there. Close enough to be able to actually fight with them a little bit on the strategy, but no. And now we're all over the shop. rears are dead. Barrichello is on options. Maybe his strategy is going to converge with ours. Need to come in this lap, but I really need to just make it the target. So, tyres are dead. Slow it right up for the pit entry to make sure that we don't have a repeat of the first stop or Germany, which means we'll drop back to where we were. P16. Far enough ahead of D'Ambrosio. Let's see, Glock, Trulli. D'Ambrosio looks like he's coming in. Kartikayan. But no danger of being overtaken.
Track is clear. We put a new set of prime tyres on the car. You have 2 stops remaining.
Just had a thought which I will check in a moment. But surely if only Buemi and...
Looks like Virgin are getting ready to receive someone in the pits. We think it'll be D'Ambrosio. He should be in within the next few laps.
Retired. That would only put us to P70. Hamilton's 15th. I wonder if that means Lewis is gone, which would move us up another spot. But that suggests that there's been another retirement. Surely. Right, let's see if we pass Lewis Hamilton, or if he is down in 15th, because he's just... No, we are past him. Surely there's been another retirement, other than Hamilton, because the way Hamilton...
You've picked up some marbles. Expect reduced grip until you can wear them off. Stay on the racing line.
The way Hamilton and Heidfeld, but surely there's another one. In massive news for our team naming rights subplot, which, you know, not really going the way of Team Lotus. Both Lotus Renault cars are out, so there's no Petrov, no Heidfeld to go with Buemi and Hamilton, hence why P15 and not P16, 17. Good news for us, it means that both Team Lotus cars will be classified ahead. Well, will be listed ahead of both Lotus Renaults, even if Trulli retires, or even if I retire. We've made it deeper into the race. I honestly believe, if you look on the mini-map, the next car behind me is Fernando Alonso, so... Can't imagine we're making this race without being lapped. It'd be nice if we managed one this season, but I don't foresee it being here. 2 more retirements though, and we can either luck into our best, our second best or joint best finish, or if we really have an attritional into this race, maybe points. But it's unlikely. But we'll keep pushing. You never know what might happen. I feel that this is going to be a lonely end to this one. Said earlier, finishing still beats our best result from 2010.
Should be pitting within the next 4 laps.
DNF after driving into the pit entry barrier. Something we've nearly done here once, and now I've said it, worries me that I'll end up doing it. A nice wide berth there. Sutil currently in the pits. We're not going to overtake him. He'll get in and get out well in front of us.
You're keeping up with race pace. Keep pushing.
Again though, just like staving off from being lapped for a fair chunk of the race, which, as I've said a number of times during this season, kind of demonstrates our pace differential to the rest of the back markers. Still nowhere near the guys ahead, but way ahead of the likes of Liuzzi, Trulli, Glock, D'Ambrosio,
If we have any chance of catching the car ahead, we'll need to lap in the low 1 minute 21. Push, push.
Low 21s, our best lap's a high 22.
Fantastic lap times. You're closing in on the car ahead.
Apparently closing. I don't think we are. We're due to pit at the end of the next lap. He's at least feeling a lot better at the end of this stint than they did at the end of the last one.
We estimate Force India will be bringing Suttil in soon, within the next 5 laps.
A couple of cars in the pits. Looks like Jarno Trulli is one of them. Adisswanto's been in as well.
The pit window is open. Come in this lap.
And there is Jarno Trulli. He will put a lap on. He's fallen to last. He'll obviously, very wide there, get to unlap himself very shortly, but that would suggest we'll get him back fairly quickly. Really, let's not forget qualifying P20 alongside
5 seconds down on Adisswanto.
He's fallen behind both Virgin Racing cars and both HRTs. He's having a terrible season, the experienced Italian. Alonso's 15th. Alonso's out. We're now P14. I've literally just looked across and seen Alonso's behind us. Fernando is out of this race as we go onto some option tyres this time. Not sure that's what I want to do. Well, that is Sebastian Vettel, I guess, has just gone by.
We've put a new set of the option tyres on the car. That leaves just 1 stop remaining.
5 laps on these and they want 1 more stop.
Vettel's just posted the fastest lap of the race.
Gotta be primes to the end. But yeah, we're now P14. D'Ambrosio up in 15th. Very much feeling like Monaco all over again, just with the retirements. We are now a lap down, but only to the leader in this race. But you can see how spread out everybody is. We've lost Alonso, Hamilton, Heidfeld, Petrov and Buemi. A few more retirements and we might snag that sliver of hope of a point. Still time in this race, who knows? Vettel a country mile ahead of the guy in second. Maybe that's Jenson Button, Massa maybe? You'd anticipate it was Button, Massa and then probably the Mercedes, but the rest of the point scorers are going to be fairly mixed up. With any luck, it's not going to be
really going for it. He's just
Barrichello or Maldonado. I feel like they probably could score points here. As I think it's Webber in second. I mean, as long as we finish P14, that would make it the second best result of the season. These are the kind of races that Team Lotus, Virgin Racing and HRT really needed. That was a lot of grass. These are the kind of races that they needed in terms of attrition to get close to the points, but for the most part they were so far off that, as we were in Monaco, we were 12th, but a lap down on the entire top 10, only finishing on the same lap as Kobayashi, but well ahead of everybody else. Drifting through turn 5, and it's a good thing it is pit stop time. I mean, as I said earlier, these Pirelli tyres, these 2011 ones, are awful. They just disintegrate. This is a high degradation track anyway. As puncture in a front wing.
You've lost your front wing. If you can nurse the car back to the pits, we'll fit a replacement.
Can indeed nurse the car back to the pits. I mean,
puncture, you have a front left puncture. Pit, pit, pit.
Right there anyway. We're far enough in front of D'Ambrosio. It'll cost us time, but maybe not enough for him to overtake us. Might be the end of the lapping the fellow backmarkers run now. puncture of the year. As we get lapped, I think that's Webber. In fact, that's probably most of the front few. Second front wing of the day.
Exit now. Watch out for traffic as you rejoin the track.
End up running straight on at turn 1, which allows Kobayashi through. He's 7th.
He's not racing you for position.
It is the other side of the circuit now. I don't think we're going to lap the fellow new teams today. We begin our final lap of this Hungarian Grand Prix, and I mean about as good as we could have hoped, I guess, really. Got on a traditional great start, managed to be in the top 10 by the end of the first lap, fighting for that position on pace. I say on pace, just getting the better getaway. Vettel wins though, with Alonso retiring. I think Webber's in second, which will draw him right up behind the Spaniard. We've had retirements for both Lotus Renaults, for Lewis Hamilton, for Sebastian Buemi. That's why we're up in P14. Oh, I'm all over the shop now, all over the grass. Horrendous couple of corners there, but at this point it doesn't really matter. We're not going to catch Jarno Trulli, so our run of lapping at least one of our fellow backmarkers every race is over. Unless, of course, it finished in Germany and I've just forgotten. I'm so far in front of D'Ambrosio it doesn't matter. We're going to cross the line here in Hungary with an awful final lap of the race. But in P14 to our second best result of the year.
That was a good solid drive, well done.
I can already see bad news just up ahead of us, but there we are, P14 ahead of D'Ambrosio, Liuzzi, Glock, Kartikayan and Jarno Trulli. Alonso, Hamilton, Petrov, Heidfeld and Buemi all retire. But if you caught it, you can see that Maldonado, Sutil and Alguersuari finished outside the points, but Rubens Barrichello did not. Nor did Paul Di Resta, who doubles his points tally. Perez gets some more on the board. Kobayashi in 7th, and it's Massa, Schumacher, Webber down in 4th in the end. So his race didn't go as he'd hoped after Alonso's retirement. And it's Rosberg, Button and Vettel on the podium, which should draw Sebastian Vettel right back into this title fight. But now we are a point behind Rubens Barrichello, who was the person we were kind of fighting for 18th, really. Now we've got Sutil and Maldonado to try and aim to beat. But what does that do to the drivers? We remain 19th, as I say. Maldonado, Sutil with 8 points. Same with Glock, Liuzzi, D'Ambrosio, Kartikayan and Trulli, who's last. Barrichello with that solitary point moves himself up to 16th. And we'll also put Williams on the board in the constructors. Di Resta there doubles his points tally. At the top end, Fernando Alonso and Sebastian Vettel are now level on points after Alonso's retirement and Vettel's win. Mark Webber now just 12 behind both of them, but slips to 3rd nonetheless. Button is actually kind of pulling himself in with that result. He is 17 behind Mark Webber. So within the hunt, I'd say. Massa and Hamilton a little bit further back. Petrov stays ahead of Rosberg, who's jumped Michael Schumacher, but that is a very close scrap for 7th. Perez consolidates 10th. I think he's probably maybe possibly a bit too far behind Schumacher with the rest of the season to go. Kobayashi a bit too far behind him. He's level on points with Heidfeld, 2 ahead of Buemi, and it's Alguersuari, and then the rest of Barrichello. And in the constructors, Red Bull continue to lead the way, but they pull ahead. They're in 3:24 now. Some 46 points ahead of Ferrari. McLaren pull a little closer to Ferrari, but not close enough to really be within major striking distance yet. well ahead of Mercedes, who have moved away from Lotus, who obviously had a double DNF. Then it's Sauber, Toro Rosso, Force India with 4 points. Williams remain 9th, but now have a single point to their name, so there are just 3 teams with no points. Team Lotus in 10th, that's us. Virgin Racing in 11th, and HRT in 12th. The fact that they're still our second best result of the season really shows you just how much of a slog 2011 has been so far. And we're about to hit 2 circuits that will categorically not suit our car. Unless there's rain. And even then, we might struggle. It's Belgium next at Spa, and then Monza, the Italian Grand Prix, the race after. Both of which are circuits with a fair amount of power required. And we just don't have any. So maybe now we're waiting for the likes of Singapore, Japan, South Korea, India, Brazil maybe. Well, I mean, I don't mind Brazil. I quite enjoy Brazil, actually. It's a circuit I enjoy driving. Then Abu Dhabi, where we took that spectacular victory in 2010. I can't see us matching any of those results, though, going into the rest of this season. But we've just got to hope. P14, well ahead of D'Ambrosio, but well behind Alguersuari. Yes, aided by a couple of retirements, but you got to be on the road to get points in the end, I guess. So, fingers crossed, maybe we can do something in the remaining few rounds, but a fairly lonely race at the Hungary ring, punctuated by a couple of silly mistakes as we were maybe pushing a touch too hard, hoping that we could catch up to anyone, really. But once again, we finish a lap down. Once again, we finish well ahead of the new teams. For the first time in a while, we don't lap any of them, though. And now with Barrichello scoring a point, it means we are ever so cut away. It's only 1 point, but you've seen how far away we've been for most of the season. And how far away we were in this race. So, I think 1 point would just be enough at this point to call this a successful season. Can we pick that up in the next couple of rounds? I'm already going to say no. But join us anyway. Thank you for watching this one. Like, share, subscribe, comment, do all the good stuff, you know the drill by now. And I shall see you at Spa for the next one.